Greetings, everybody. This is, well, of course, as you know, my name's James. I'm Twisted View Labs, and this is my inaugural video for a different format that I'm hopefully gonna try, and hopefully it's the main format of this channel. It's basically just gonna be me ranting and raving about, anything more or less music related. And to kick things off, just to cut straight to the chase, my main bone of contention right now is any kind of award ceremonies, or like, for instance, in relation to the Grammys or Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions, that kind of thing. I will warn you right now, none of this is scripted. This is just what comes to my mind. So that way you're getting kind of raw data right there. So, and you get to look at my ugly mug for however long this video is. But, as these progress, I might do some like drum covers or something like that, But regardless, getting back to what I was going to talk about right now, I think personally any kind of like the Grammys or Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions, I think at this point in life, I personally think that they're a joke. It's nothing more than, who's more popular, what, garbage artist did some major record label cram down our throat, even if we didn't really want to hear it. And why are they so great? It's like, I really don't care. If you like that kind of thing, that's cool. I don't harp on people for, stuff that they like. You can like what you like. I really don't care. But my thing is, for instance, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions. Here, let me just pull up the most recent inductees. So we're going to take a quick look here. Now, because this is, and as you can see, everything's kind of a mess right now because I'm getting everything set up, but I figured, hey, this is my kind of hello world video, so, but, to take a look, let's see. I'm just pulling up the site, as you can see. Hopefully. Yeah, you can't. Okay, you kind of saw it, but let's see. So, okay, so we're going to go to the 2020 inductees. Let's see who made it. Now, I can already tell by the little thumbnails. Two that I was excited about personally was Nine Inch Nails and Depeche Mode. Others, let's see here. So, as far as the performers, Depeche Mode, the Doobie Brothers, Whitney Houston, Nine Inch Nails, and the Notorious B.I.G., and T-Rex. Now, I agree actually with most of those. The one, sorry, I get to look at my shirt. The two that I don't quite think should have been inducted yet, are the two kind of, the two kind of obvious ones, which would be Whitney Houston and the Notorious B.I.G. Because it's not that I don't think that they'll ever deserve to be in there. Yes, I think that they will. But the people that were, the other artists or bands that were up for nomination at least, to be inducted, I think were a little more deserving. And let's see, I'm trying to see if I could find an old post about I can't seem to find it. I know Todd Rundgren was on there. Thin Lizzy. were they not deserving? I mean, come on. The impact that they had. I mean, I know most people only know maybe like 2 songs, which is, was it The Boys Are Back in Town and what, Jailbreak maybe? You might know Jailbreak, but other than that, you don't know. I mean, they weren't a huge, they weren't like widely known except for like maybe 1 or 2 hits, granted, but oh my god, they're an amazing band and they should have been in there. Other bands that keep getting snubbed are like bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. Let's see, who else? There's one band that never has been nominated and I think should be. Simply for the sheer fact that one of the bands that's actually now finally, after I forget what year they got inducted, it was within the past few years, Cheap Trick, of course, was inducted, which was great. But one of the bands that I'm pretty sure heavily influenced them was a band called Big Star. It was primarily Alex Chilton and Chris Bell. And if you haven't heard at least the first 2 albums of theirs, you need to. I mean, I personally think that those 2 albums just by themselves are 2 albums that you should hear at least once in your life. Just, I mean, the first time I heard, actually, if any of you have watched that show, that 70s show, there's the theme song, if you will, in the beginning when they show the opening credits to the show. And it's actually, coincidentally, Cheap Trick in later seasons covering this song. I believe, the song's called In the Street. Hanging out. And I'm not going to try to sing because I can't. But, down the street. But, yeah, that part. That was actually originally performed by Big Star. And I can't remember if the first couple seasons they actually used the Big Star version or not, or was it just someone else doing it? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been so long. But if you listen to, Number One Record and Radio City, those are their first 2 albums. Number One Record being their first record, obviously, and Radio City being their second. And then they put out, there was one that was kind of later released called Third. It's also called Sister Lovers. It's theoretically their 3rd album, even though officially it was never actually completed. But those 3 albums, I mean, the 3rd album has songs like Holocaust, and let's see, Holocaust, You and Your Sister is actually on Chris Bell's solo album, which is I Am the Cosmos, which again, phenomenal album. I mean, Chris Bell should be, and Alex Chilton should be inducted individually as well as part of Big Star. This band just really brought forth the whole power pop movement starting in the early 70s. And, you had bands like Big Star, then you had Badfinger, then you had Cheap Trick, and then in later years, bands like Enough's Enough and Jellyfish, and even Imperial Drag, and the Posies, and, even some stuff by the Lemonheads, Letters to Cleo. I mean, I can go on with the litany of bands that this band Big Star influenced, and I think that they're deserving of it. Now, as far as getting back to who I don't agree with. Now, what I do agree with is, for instance, Depeche Mode. Seeing them live, amazing band. Saw them in '93 for the Devotional Tour with Alan Wilder, and hashtag bring Alan Wilder back. Hashtag make Depeche Mode great again. But let's see, Depeche Mode, Doobie Brothers, just a phenomenal, good, solid, just good rock band. Produced by Ted Templeman of all people, who also produced bands like Van Halen and actually Cheap Trick. Worked on an album or two of theirs. I know Woke Up With a Monster he definitely produced, which was a very underrated album of Cheap Trick's, by the way. For some reason, I actually know why. There was some issues, but it should have been bigger than it was. It kind of was big for about 5 minutes, and then it just fell off the face of the earth. Like, the only people that really know about that album these days are people who have like followed Cheap Trick forever. But also, I mean, Ted Templeman, Montrose, the Bullet Boys, shout out to Jimmy Deanda, what's up? And, you know, a ton of other bands that, he's produced, and his production just very big sound. And Ted Templeman himself, just even as a producer, should be inducted if he hasn't been already. But let's see. So the Doobie Brothers, I definitely agree with. I grew up listening to their stuff. You know, it keeps you running minute by minute. I can never remember like half of the names of their songs, but I think they had a song called Toulouse Street or something like that. I'm probably way mispronouncing it. But, you know, Doobie Brothers, phenomenal band. T-Rex, that was the shocker for me, because T-Rex really didn't come to prominence, especially in the United States, until, I would say, you know, when people started getting back into like glam rock and, you know, the whole 70s glam and glitter rock thing, you know, Bowie, Joe Bryant, and Roxy Music and stuff like that, which is all phenomenal. And speaking of other people that were snubbed, Joe Bryant, he was like basically America's answer to Bowie. And the sad thing was at the time when he came, you know, when he was first noticed, you know, he was very open about being an openly gay man, and his music was very theatric, but very, actually really good, really solid music. It's just nobody could get over the fact that he happened to be gay, and it's like, you know, years later, you know, especially after someone like Freddie Mercury died, you know, people started becoming a little more accepting towards, you know, the LGBTQ community, and as far as musicians and even other celebrities being, you know, either, you know, gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, whatever their preference or whatever they choose to identify as, you know, and it sucks because he put out two really good solid albums as well. But anyways, I digress. The other, let's see, I think that was it. Oh, Nine Inch Nails, of course. Seen them twice, actually, for the Downward Spiral tour and for the Fragility 2.0 tour in 2000, with a Perfect Circle opening, by the way, who were obviously being a kind of a byproduct of Maynard James Keenan. Of course, it's amazing. But, you know, it's just, you had Pat Benatar, you had Todd Rundgren, you had Thin Lizzy, you had, I think Judas Priest was on there, Motorhead. They've been around for a lot longer, you know, than Whitney Houston and Notorious B.I.G. That's the only reason I think that any of those bands, Soundgarden even, and that's the only reason that I think any of those bands were a little more deserving than those two. Not saying that they'll never deserve to be in there. I mean, you know, they had an impact on music in general. They really did. I mean, album sales wise, obviously, with Notorious B.I.G., I mean, how he, you know, how his delivery and everything, it was kind of a throwback, but it also kind of changed the game the same way that Tupac did in later years, the same way Eminem, and so on. So, it's, you know, it's one of those things where, yes, he deserves to be in there, just, I don't think quite yet. Because, I mean, you didn't really start noticing him until, 92, 93, maybe? Somewhere around there. And Tupac was, I mean, I think Tupac was inducted finally. But, you know, I just don't think now was the time. Let the people that have been, like, patiently or impatiently waiting in first, let the people that have been waiting the longest to get in, let them in. And let them be acknowledged, you know, by this. It's, you know, apparently such a high accolade, you know, to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let them in first before you let some slight newcomer in. I mean, that's why I'm not too disappointed about a band like Soundgarden, even though I think that they deserve to be in there because of what they did. You know, and Chris Cornell, I mean, nobody can replace Chris Cornell. I mean, there was no, I mean, how he could go from, you know, kind of a lower almost baritone to, like, just, like, shrieking like a banshee, and so effortlessly, you know, just, they deserved it. But, I think they're putting in at least a few decent acts in there just to make it seem like less of a joke. But I just think that they really, you know, it's because I was watching, I was keeping track of how, you know, us fans, you know, the public was voting on who should be inducted, and Pat Benatar was, like, way up ahead of, like, everybody. You know, it was like, okay, no brainer, she's gonna get in, cool. And then when they announced the list, you know, it's who I mentioned, and I was like, wait a minute, where is Pat Benatar? You know, where's Thin Lizzy, for that matter? I wasn't even expecting, you know, T-Rex, or I think MC5 was on there. And, you know, a band like T-Rex, again, huge impact and influence on varying forms of music, mostly rock, obviously, but not big on the album sales, especially here in the States. I think they did a little better in Europe and obviously their native UK. Mark Bolan was just an interesting character. I mean, of what I've read, obviously when he, you know, passed away, I was probably all of 3 years old. So obviously I can't say, oh yeah, he was such a cool guy. Totally hung out with him. No, I never hung out with him. Obviously, you know, and that's actually something else I want to touch on. You know, people who give their opinions on how they think, you know, people might be, you know, based on their perception of them, let them, like, when I say that, I'm not saying that as if I know them personally. It's more of what my perception of what I've seen, what I've read, you know, what's been presented to me, how I think that person's going to be. Like, someone like, for instance, like Dave Grohl, I think would be a totally cool person to hang out with. You know, you could probably crack open a couple beers with him, and then, you know, obviously if you play an instrument, you guys will just jam out, you know. And I think that would be awesome to be in a jam session with Dave Grohl. Of course, he'd have to let me on the drum kit. I don't know if he'd be too thrilled about that, you know. I'm not at his level, I guess. But, you know, I'm sure he'd appreciate it that, you know, fellow musician wants to jam with him because he seems very down to earth. But, you know, if you state, you know, what you think are facts about somebody, it's not that you're stating it because you think, because you're trying to give the perception that you know them. You just know of them. And it's based on the facts. Sorry. Got a little choked up there. Based on the facts that have been presented to you. You know. Other things I can go on and I'll address in later videos. The whole, you know, did Kurt Cobain actually commit suicide? Was he murdered? Did Courtney Love have something to do with it? And, you know, that's something I'll save for another video because I could be here for like an hour just discussing it. And this video is already over 21 minutes long, so I just want to kind of wrap it up here. But in summary, you know, award shows a joke. Award shows are jokes. You know, I haven't seriously sat down and watched an award show since, what year was that? That was like 88 or 90. It was the American Music Awards, and Jethro Tull beat Metallica for Best Metal Act. That was the moment. That was the one moment where I realized either whoever votes on these is completely out of touch or this is just a joke. Because even that was the weird thing, is it was more than likely because that Jethro Tull album sold out. I think it was 88 or 89 actually. I don't think it was 90. I know it was before the Black Album came out, because if the Black Album had been out, of course Metallica would have won. Because everybody loved that album. It was actually a pretty good album. But I don't think, you know, I've never considered Jethro Tull to be, you know, a total metal act. You know, I've always considered them to be, you know, kind of veering on folk or progressive rock or something, or I guess you could say progressive folk, if that's a thing, but not metal. I mean, that's like calling Celine Dion industrial rock. No, not even close. Sorry. But in any event, so hope you all enjoyed this. Hit a like, dislike, you know, just of course, as every YouTuber says, smash that like button if you like it, hit that dislike button if you didn't, and if you want to see me post some more stuff, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. All right, bye.